Hey everyone, how's it going? My name is Sam MORRILL. I'm Director of Curation here at Vimeo. Thanks so much for coming out today. I'm really excited about the talk that we're about to have. So Carlos López Estrada first blipped onto Vimeo's radar in 2010 for a music video that he did for Maximum Balloon Groove Me. So that earned his first staff pick, and that's the first of, I think, 11 that Carlos has received. And so over the last seven years or so, we've seen Carlos evolve into one of the most exciting directors out there today. And so that kind of all culminated back in January at the Sundance Film Festival when his first feature film, Blindspotting, premiered over at Sundance to rave reviews. And so that was co-written and co-starring David Diggs and Rafael Casal, who are here with us today as well. So please join me in welcoming Carlos López Estrada, David Diggs, and Rafael Casal. So, hey guys.
Hi.
Hello. Hello.
Is everyone's mic working? Cool. Okay,
Hello.
so the way that this is
Check.
going to work is it's kind of going to be a combination presentation and conversation. So we're going to have Carlos actually lead us through some slides and some clips that will kind of like track the trajectory of his career all the way leading up to Blindspotting, which is what we're really here to talk about today.
I'm excited to see this slideshow.
It's I did it on the plane today on the way here. Let me see if this works.
There we go. So that's the title of the talk.
I think I got it wrong. I added something. Well, this is David and Rafa. We just finished the movie. It's playing.
Stretch that. Reverse it.
David and Rafa. We just finished the movie. It's playing tonight, and then Thursday.
I have no idea.
So yeah, no, Blindspotting. Yeah, tonight at 6 p.m. at the
6
Paramount.
We're really excited to be here. And we know all the things we're supposed to do.
I've known David for 7 years, and I've known Rafa for 5 years. So this PowerPoint presentation is going to take
It's just
you,
all of our picks like hanging out. It's just like,
It's going to take you chronologically from the beginning until today. I hope. We begin in 2011.
oof.
And this is before these guys.
This is the only thing on this slide. You couldn't make this. You couldn't make this any bigger of a font case.
He's building suspense.
I'm trying to build suspense.
He's a minimalist. Oh, there. Here we go.
And this is a project called Bear that the guys at Vimeo were kind enough to staff pick. This is, I don't even think you know this.
Have no idea what
Yeah,
this is.
David doesn't know what this is. It was a film that I did in college as a film student that David's bandmate Jonathan Snipes scored.
Oh shit! This is why we know each other.
Yeah. So I needed an electronic score for this short, and a friend of a friend said, "Hey, there's this guy who does weird music. He's in this weird band. You should talk to him." And he scored this. So I'm gonna play like a minute of it, I think. Let's just go. Here goes. Very nice. It's a cliffhanger.
Powerful stuff, Carlos.
Thank you.
Very powerful.
So that's how I met Jonathan, who is 1/3 of Clipping, which is David's rap group. They're wonderful. So next in the timeline, after we did that,
Did that stress anyone else out watching like a kid paint on a rug? I feel like that's how you know you're an adult, when you're like, someone needs to put some paper down under this child. Free painting on like a really nice Crate and Barrel rug.
Also, that bear felt like Beast Wars a little bit.
After that, I met David. And sorry. This is 2014. We did our first video together 4 years ago.
Yeah.
Is there anything about that?
4 years
video?
ago today. That's not true.
Yeah.
This was. Did I ever see? We had talked on the phone, but I don't know if I ever met you until we were on set. Is that true? Or you came over Jonathan's
No,
house?
David and I met online. We emailed a lot.
Yeah.
The concept, I pitched it like this.
Yeah.
The concept.
And we were like, "Yep, got it."
The concept was basically David rapping while getting curb stomped, and I think somewhere along the pre-production process we realized that could be really bad for his teeth.
Yeah.
So before we met, you met my dentist because
Yeah.
he went to my dentist to get a little mouth guard.
Got
so
like
that-
real thick Invisalign.
Yes.
And we also had a ton of arguments. Carlos really wanted cats in this video, and we were like, we are not having cats on the internet. That is not this band. So we compromised with rats.
They said the only way we'd have cats is if they're covered in goo and black. But we couldn't do that, so we did rats instead.
But I also I don't know if you've seen this video, but when I showed up, because I didn't know what to expect. Like, I'd never met this dude before. And we show up on set, and it's like he's stolen a ton of crew from a commercial he was working on. And we're in an alleyway, and there's lights timed to the music. And he's got a fucking, what's the camera called? What were you using?
It was a movie.
You were using a movie, which I'd never seen before. And I was just like, who is this guy? And how did he do this? Because the label gave us $1,000 to make this video. And we've been working together ever since.
Yeah. So this is the first minute of that video. Here goes.
Holla out your city if you ride for it.
You can see the
Let them know
Invisalign.
why you die for it. Same reason all these riders get high, so it's all medicinal. Now what you want, buy, homie? Buy bitch, mob shit, boss talk, game rich, name gang, gang signs, work on the phone, call it baseline. Yup, line dance like a hold down, pimps up, daytime, whole block of ghost town, ghost ride, ghost face, G's get ghost in a moment, pour a little for the ghosts of the dead homies. Deadpan voice singing tin pan alley songs, panhandling in front of tourists with their camera phones. Get it how you live, or live till you get it. Get it in. When the stash low and it's no cash, get it in. And you're riding no L's, no tags, get it in. And she looking like you ain't gon' smash, get it in. But she got her legs up on the dash, shorty say this how to get that work, make that work. Get that work, make that work. Get that work, make that work. Get that work, make that work.
See, I get it, I whip it, I flip it, I pocket the profit. Don't know when to stop it.
Cree actually has a bunch of new songs out. She's released 4 videos this month. Cock Pistol Cree, you should go check that shit out. It's really good. That's unrelated.
So what was that shoot like?
We did it for no money. We had a shoot the day before and a shoot the day after. So we begged the crew to give us an extra night, so that we could shoot this. We shot it behind a synagogue.
Yeah. Yeah, and we shot it 3 times because it's a one shot. But But
It is
is
a
it
one
actually
shot.
you only used one?
Yes.
I don't know. You can't tell anymore. You guys are good at the tricks.
It's a real one shot.
But we shot it. We only did it 3 times. We rehearsed for 15 hours, and then shot it 3 times, and it was totally bonkers.
Next slide. Okay. Next slide is. Wait, I don't think. Oh, there it is. So, we did a lot of clipping videos. Here's a few of them. It's not supposed to glitch. After that, we all moved to New York. I don't know if you want to jump in here. And
This is the montage moment of the movie.
No way.
Where you see the plane on the map.
I put an illustration to
Just the flame emoji? Just 3.
it's
Just 3 flame
three
emojis?
flames for our 3 moves to New York. It's
You were-
it's very symbolic.
You were still drunk when you made this presentation, yeah?
He just came from his mom's birthday in
It's my-
Mexico. He was still faded when he made this slideshow.
It's
Which one is
it's
which?
true. David goes first because he was the first one to move to New York.
Obviously.
He was he was in a play, a musical called Hamilton. I'm second because I came like 5 months after him. I had no reason to be in New York, but I just really like the city. And the last one's Rafa.
The 3rd flame, the triple flame.
Yeah. What was your reasoning for moving to New York?
Oh, I mean, I moved to New York because David and I are longtime collaborators, but that motherfucker don't respond to emails.
It's like a.
So if you don't, like, if you're not within like a certain proximity, it could be weeks. Like he'll send a text and be like, "Hey man, can you look at this one thing real quick? We got to finish this out by tomorrow." And like a week later, he's like, "Yeah, it's good." Bro, you just scrolling down, getting back to everybody. So I was like, "Okay, I'm gonna move to New York and let's make this a little bit easier."
And he would just like post up in my dressing room at Hamilton. So like.
I've only seen the show once, but I've been there
A
for
lot.
weeks at a time.
To the degree that like security would just let him in the building, like, and he would sign autographs in the line afterwards. Like motherfuckers
Like,
thought he was in the
Rafa!
show,
Like, hey.
but he would just be up there, and like I go out and do the first act, and then at intermission I'd come back in. He'd be like, "Okay, I know you only have like 6 minutes, so what do you think about?" And we'd like go over some things, and I'd go do Jefferson.
Is it true that there's Hamilton fan fiction that involves Rafa?
There's a lot of
very
like,
erotic.
There's a lot of erotic.
There's a really erotic
Slash
fan
fiction.
fiction about like my jealousy of Diggs' fame. And like women consoling me for my jealousy.
It's like Renee Elise Goldsberry consoling you for your jealousy.
I have this dream of like reading it aloud on YouTube. Like that's like a really great web series is you and I reading our fan fiction.
Done. Carlos will direct.
So I think the week that Rafa moved to New York, we all had brunch in this place that I really like. I forgot the name. And the Grange?
Oh yeah.
Brunch at the Grange. And we just had this moment where we said, hey, we've been trying to work together forever. How do we make it happen? And I think probably like a week later, Rafa had this brilliant idea. Maybe like 2 weeks later. Which is... Bars.
Bars. Yeah. This is the part where I talk about bars. Okay. So I moved to New York, and I think Diggs and I were both experiencing a lot of people coming up to us asking them for us to teach them how to rap for Hamilton auditions, because they were like, well, people are going to leave. Someone's got to replace those people. I'm an actor. If I can rap, I can get into Hamilton. And we were kind of like, well, it's not really a thing. We're not going to teach you how to. You either like learn how to rap or like can fucking rap, or you can't. But what we realized is that there was this needed space for people who are interested in verse-driven theater to try that out and to experiment with the form a little bit. I mean, that's what Shakespeare is. That's what Hamilton is sort of all in the same lineage of that kind of theater. And so we decided to create this verse-driven theater workshop called Bars, which started sort of as a small workshop in a little rehearsal space. and now is a program, a yearly program at the Public Theater in New York. But the idea was always for it to culminate in like a big video, like a video project for online content to generate excitement about it. We're like, cool, like we'll get some of the people who are sort of a part of the Broadway scene in New York to do cameos, and we'll sort of capitalize on some of the excitement around what Diggs was doing in New York to sort of catapult this program. And so I had this idea early on of like, oh, we'll do little mini scene, like inverse adaptations of popular movies, and we'll like string them all together with musicians as a medley, and then I'll like run around the room with like a DSLR on my phone, and we'll just film it, and it'll feel like a really like fun rehearsal that we'll put up online, and hopefully like the shitty quality will be something that people will be excited about and just be like, great, this is cool, this happened, let's prop it up. And I met up with Carlos and I mentioned this idea, and in sort of true Carlos fashion, he was like, oh, you should let me do that. And then what happened is it went from a small idea to a massive production where we have...
But with the same amount of time as a small idea.
Yeah, like there's no...
Budget.
And there's no budget. It's like, Carlos, I have $500. He's like, yeah, no, I've got this.
We had a local after-school program called Ghetto Film School that donated the cameras, the lights. Give it up for Ghetto Film School.
Ghetto Film
Yeah.
School.
It's sort of like the nature of Carlos to find all of the particular partners that the idea is going to excite. But the end result is me walking into a rehearsal room that I'd rented for very cheap with no insurance, and there being like this maze of lights and sets that he's built with his crew, and we're gonna, in this area for the audience, and we've got like 150 people waiting out in the hallway to come into this room that's filled with gear.
You're doing.
Yeah, sorry.
That was your fault.
I invited a lot of people, and trying to make this spectacle online. And what was amazing about it is we nailed it in a couple takes, which I guess I don't know which medley you're showing, but we're showing.
We did it a few times. We don't have clips from the first one, but we have this. No.
Oh.
This.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
a picture.
That was from the first one.
So that's me and Diggs dressed up as Calvin and Hobbes, and Susie in the middle, Sarah Kay, very famous spoken word poet, carrying her traditional bunny, and Diggs in this miraculous fur coat, which I still have. And so we would sort of do this intro sequence, and then it would start to pivot and sort of make its way around the room. And luckily, it was enough of a spectacle in true Carlos fashion that like it caught all the major websites in New York, and really allowed the Public Theater to get really excited about it. I think it's at like 80 or 100,000 views now, and it's 25 minutes long, so that's a lot for a longer piece online, and got us our home. Bars, Volume 2. And so this is, I guess you're showing a clip from when we did it at the Public the second time.
Yes. So, yeah, we did it again, the Public Theater.
This time based on books. It was short scenes based on literature.
we did sort of stuff from the literary canon, and that time we did it with the Public. Hudson Jeans was a big financial sponsor for us, so the budget was a bit bigger. And then we asked a bunch of our friends from the Broadway scene to come in and sort of introduce each segment.
So this is a segment that is an adaptation. Oh no, first is photo view. So you can see that
We wear a lot of
roles.
onesies. You can't tell, but these go all the way to the floor.
this is an adaptation. It's Beloved. Do you want to introduce?
This is an adaptation of the book Beloved by Toni Morrison with a few of the amazing women of the bar's second cohort that they wrote and starred.
The whole video is like 40 minutes long, but I recommend you guys watch it because there's some really incredible talent in there. This is like 2 minutes out of those 40.
This is not a story to pass on, they say. Beloved is what happens to passion enslaved.
Any minute now, salvation. Any minute now, Lord, Denver, be patient. Any minute now, salvation. Any minute now, Lord, Denver, be patient. My big mouth, my big mouth. whenever you've done it now. Quick like water, how word gets around. A stampede of women and they're all coming down. Blue stone road, righteous women, strong black bones, fight within them. Bibles, crosses, palms to the sky. What my boss gonna say when he arrives? Running home on wounded feet. Am I free? Am I free? I beg the Lord on bended knee. Am I free? Am I free? So water goes in over me. Am I free? Am I free? Stuff's too big to keep. Crawling from the no, fuck the birds. See me trying to touch my girl. She put her finger on her. Mama tear apart your world. Got my word, ain't running. Keep your gun in your smirk. My hands an ice pick. I'ma slit your throat in the dirt. See, last time I'm the one who made a mistake. I was trying to climb up a knife to God's gate. My crime wasn't killing, it's being willing and spilling my children's blood for yours. Get drilled in when you're building a life on all fours. Gotta say it out loud before you lay it in the ground. I've been praying it day in and out. I've been paying the price. Best believe I ain't making the same mistake twice. Now you get out. Now you come to play. Where were you the night she died? Can't take my baby. Take my joy. Take my safety. Learn all the ways. Take my baby. Take my man. Take my home. Take my shit. I'll walk on 4 legs. Take my baby.
Ain't no hands are gonna get me down, ma. You gon' be the last bitch to put me in the ground, ma. Ain't no hands are gonna get me down, ma. You gon' be the last bitch to put me in the ground, ma. Stuff's too big to keep.
Anything?
That shit's good, man.
They're really they're awesome. The girl with the lighter colored hair that's in the beginning, who sings throughout the whole thing, is now working on a Civil War musical at the Public with another one of the writers of that piece that sort of was spawned from this idea.
How's that going?
Dope.
How are we doing on time? Should I? Yeah, we're good. Okay, just keep going. I don't know what's next.
There's a lot more slides, guys.
2017. I included this just to show a little bit of the multidisciplinary, collaborative nature that I think exists in this group. Because we do stuff together, but we also do stuff for each other. And you know, David has lent some of his rapping skills for some of the videos I've done, and this one was Rafa's contribution to my first narrative project, which was a digital show called High and Mighty.
You are on it with these slides,
Thank
man.
you, thank you. We had this montage that we had this really famous rap song that we couldn't clear, and I thought of all my incredibly talented friends who would be a homie and help us write some original stuff. And we reached out to Rafa, and I think after like a month of me emailing you, you
I eventually phoned it in, yeah.
overnight recorded this. So this is a little clip from the show with music by Rafael Casal.
Which premiered at Sundance.
It did. It's highly intellectual material. So we did that, and I think that was the first time we ever had a conversation about any narrative stuff. I remember I sent you that clip, and you were like, "Hey, I think maybe we can do something with words and people and not just music." I don't know what's next. Oh, I know what's next. So this is an unreleased.
Oh yeah.
Do you want to preface it? Do you want to preface
No, you
it?
do. You direct
This,
it.
so this is the latest installment of Bars. This time we shot it still in New York at the YouTube space. YouTube helped us out this time with equipment and cameras and all the stuff we couldn't afford. And this time the theme of the showcase at the end was images. So whether it was photos or paintings or illustrations, historical, they would write a piece and perform it, adapt it on a different image. So it's actually in the clip, so no introduction necessary. And this hasn't been released, so this First Eyes.
I woke up in the middle of the night because it sounds like somebody's chopping wood in the other room. And I rushed to wherever I thought the sound was coming from, and I see my mother. She's standing in the corner all alone. And I looked at you. I knew exactly what was going on. So what you want to do? Well, you've been hitting mom too since I was 3. As you can see now, I'm 22. And I ain't in the mood. I leave for school and come back every weekend just to see she got another bruise. It's because of you. Man to man, if you raise a hand to my mama, I swear your life is through. Hey, don't be talking while I talk, it's unacceptable. You're not my father, just some drunk that's in the living room. Oh, you standing, huh? Well, if you're swinging, then I'm swinging too. Bob and weave. Jericho. Stick and move. Stick and move. Blow for blow, if you knock the man of the house out. Rule of thumb is that I'm the man of the house now. A man can either stand up and he can get knocked down. The line is blood on my knuckle make you sound like a loud mouse. It ain't gonna be no more now, son, take the trash out. You're not gonna keep telling me that I gotta watch my mouth. Father supposed to teach his son whatever life about. You left me all alone and hope that I just figured out. Hook, jab, jab, taking you down to 5-2, uppercut, cross, making your knees wobble. 1, 2, punch, this one is from my mama. I'm not a coward, not you, I was the only outcome. I can feel my heart beating in my fist. You on your back watching the ceiling fan spinning. And mama's in the corner crying, standing real stiff, and I can tell she's scared of something, but she ain't looking at him. She's looking at me. I'm on 2 feet. Eyes red, chest breathing heavy, and I understand that she might be feeling worried, but a man without his hands can't stand, and that ain't me.
We gotta do some mixing on that.
So I think this brings us to today. We did a few interviews over there at Sundance, and I think something that we realized as we were talking about the movie and the projects that we've done together is how unconsciously, because we didn't know or maybe you guys can jump in. We didn't know this was going to happen, when it was going to happen, or how it was going to happen. It all sort of, I mean, these guys had been working on the script for almost a decade, but not until probably this exact time last year did we find out that it could potentially become a real movie. But we kept talking about how all of these projects that we've done, David and Rafa have a relationship that goes way, way, way back. The projects that we've done together, the projects that we've done together, the projects that they've done together, in one way or another, sort of like prepared us for what Blindspotting would be, because I assume not many of you have seen it, but it's a movie that was written, produced, and starred both David and Rafa, so it's very much sort of like combining all of these disciplines and all of these sort of like voices that they've been crafting, that we've been crafting together. So it was really like the culmination of all these years and all these different kinds of projects that we've been working on together. There's something we can't show you a Blindspotting clip, so
I think
we
it
can
might
talk
be
about
helpful if you could just give the audience kind of an overview of what Blindspotting is about and what it deals with.
You're
They make
the
me do
best
it
at
every
it.
time.
You're the best at it.
That's us. We describe Blindspotting as a buddy comedy in a world that won't let it be one. It's a story of two friends who were born and raised in Oakland over the course of the last 4 days of one of their last 4 days of his probation, of David's character, whose name is Colin in the film's last 4 days of probation, and we drop in on them sort of on that fourth day, as it's counting down to the last day, and as he's driving home, he sees a police kill an unarmed black man in Oakland that's roughly around the same age as him, and he's the only one who sees it, and it's sort of about how their dynamic plays out over the next 4 days as they're trying to stay in the buddy comedy life that they've always had, but the sort of the world around them is sort of caving in different ways, and they're in a rapidly gentrifying Oakland. If you know anything about Oakland, it's sort of the same as Brooklyn, the same as I hear it's happening here in Austin as well. It's like a massive turnover and influx of new people, and so we wanted to make a film that talked about the city that's existed for a long time underneath that new wave of folks, and the kinds of people that it's affecting and the ways that it's affecting them. And so we made this film. This is a very pivotal scene. So we released this as our first still, and we've been working on this film for about 9 years. We've been writing it, and we got the opportunity, last spring to get a greenlit from our producers, Jess and Keith Cotter from Snoop Productions, who've been with us since the beginning, who really were catalysts for the idea. And the big challenge that we had for the film is that we wanted it to have like heightened language and verse be sort of a part of its spine, and throughout the story, and that was sort of our task, which is why I think a lot of this music stuff and bars and all these places where we've worked with verse on film have been really helpful. And then they asked me at a lunch who should direct the movie, and they were kind of like, Rafa, do you want to do it? And I was like, fuck no. We're acting and writing and doing all this. So there's no way I'm prepared for that. But I've worked with Carlos, and he's like, I've never met anybody more ready to do their first feature than Carlos is. And we have a great shorthand, and we all work really well together, and we've had these years and years of experience kind of, being in the trenches with each other on ideas that we totally can't afford to do. And we're like, you know what you really can't afford to do? Make a movie. So who better to grab than somebody who's willing to take on the largest version of that same premise than not having enough money or time to do a really, really ambitious script that involves verse in film. And then 2 months later, we were shooting.
Yeah. Carlos, I think, has this way, which, like you said, we learned over time, but like he has this way of allowing. Verse is a tricky thing on film. There's something, if you ever go to a show, like particularly a rap show live, there's like an energy that you get from it that is very difficult to capture. You don't see it in a lot of videos, really. and videos find ways around it, create story or whatever or effects or whatever to work around the fact that you can't really get the same kind of energy. But Carlos has found this way to sort of allow verse to exist in a performer's body in a way that it does live. This very like theatrical way of shooting things that sort of allows you to feel like you're there, even if the text is heightened, even if you're watching heightened text on film, which is tricky. It's why like Shakespeare is so hard to watch on film sometimes. You know, it's like there's something about that cognitive distance of having a screen between you that sometimes ruins verse. And Carlos sort of figured it out. So he was definitely like a no-brainer for this project, in which we were trying to make this kind of speech seem very, very naturalistic and be able to set up a context where it just comes in and out of the speech, and the scene doesn't have to change. You don't have to comment on it, but you can still be aware of it. And so it was definitely a no-brainer to work with him on this.
Yeah, and thank you. I don't think I can take all the credit, because I think the work you guys have been doing as well over the last few years has definitely built up to this. I was remembering just now, the first time we ever met, Rafa and I, we quickly realized that we had many of the same interests. We both love theater, we both love music, we both love performance, and one of the very first things that we said over coffee was, like, wouldn't it be great to find a way to merge all these disciplines in a way that we haven't seen? People film theater all the time, but in a way that I feel like sort of like ignores the magic of it, the magic of you know, a person performing live. And we had all these ideas of things that we could do, and how can we incorporate music and spoken word, which they're both, you know, incredibly good at, and this sense of live performance. And flash forward 6 years, we're making these projects that are essentially that, just a hybrid of theater and music and film. And flash forward 1 year, we're making this movie that incorporates all of those disciplines. And whenever you guys get a chance to see Blindspotting, you'll see, I think, like little pieces of all these projects. You'll see pieces of clipping in there. Jonathan Snipes, who this all started with, wrote a few, or like produced a few of the songs with David and Rafa. There's spoken word, there's heightened language, there's like some theater in there, that some like incredibly beautifully dramatic moments. So to me, it really does feel like Blindspotting is a culmination of sort of like our 7-8 years of knowing each other and working with each other.
Unfortunately, we're going to have to wrap pretty soon, but I want to make sure that the audience gets a chance to ask any questions it might have. So I think we have a microphone. Julie over there has one. So if you have a question, just raise your hand, and Julie will run over and make sure you get the microphone.
Can I reveal the second photo before?
Let's do it.
Okay, ready? Oh, wait, it fireworks. It didn't work.
Sometimes things go wrong, people.
All right, sorry.
But yeah, I mean, it seems to me that you guys kind of got together at like the perfect time in terms of like the technology of filmmaking, because prior to something like the movie or being able to shoot things digitally where you can take long takes and not be eating up film, in order to film theater, you would have had to have some sort of kind of boring multicam setup, and that's the way theater had been recorded previously. So I guess my question to you, Carlos, is, were you always interested in theater, and it just so happened that the technology had advanced to a point that you could incorporate it? Or was the technology something that kind of inspired you to move towards theater?
I mean, to me, meeting these two guys was a real sort of like privilege, because I grew up watching theater. My grandma was a theater actress, and I went to film school, so all my training is on film, but I always had this sort of like dream of being able to work in both, and I hopefully in a way that would allow for them to merge somehow. And it was really only this like small seed that I had planted in my brain that I wanted to do, but I had really no way, because I was so deep into the film world that I didn't have an in or a way to get started in theater. And I met David and I met Rafa, and I think sort of like all of our interests really merged And I think David was doing theater in New York. Rob had been teaching theater and doing spoken word. And it was just this really great intersection. To me, it feels like the planets did align, and we all got to do what we've been wanting to do for a really long time. And I think that comes across in the movie. You see it, and it's a movie that's really personal to them and to me as a director. So I don't know if I answered your question. But
Is there anything that you guys want to add? I mean, because you guys were also kind of making a transition, like whereas Carlos was kind of transitioning from purely film to kind of this hybrid of film and theater, you guys were transitioning from more theater to the big screen to doing, your first feature film. What was that process like, going from theater to feature film?
Well, I think because we were talking earlier about how there are a lot of directors working in the music video space who want to be making features and haven't been able to figure out how to do that yet. And similarly, sometimes it's difficult or it takes a while for actors who are working in one medium to kind of go back and forth. But the real privilege of this relationship is that you just have to have people who are going to trust you to play and give you the space to fuck around a little bit, because you don't know how to do it till you do it. And so I had done, by the time we shot Blindspotting, I'd done a couple of movies, but always small roles and really manageable stuff. So this was the first time I had ever been a lead in a film, and I don't know that anyone else but my friends would have trusted me to do that at this so soon out the gate, but they did. And and the great thing about that, aside from us getting a movie that I really like out of it, is that I got to learn so much in the process in an environment that was open to me making mistakes. We'd sort of built it into the very limited schedule that we had, that we were gonna mess up because we didn't know how to do this. So
we have a few, because of the way I think we've all sort of artistically come about. We have a few different languages that we speak. My background was in shooting stuff on YouTube and working as an editor in Final Cut and Premiere, and knowing that suite really well, and being a part of the DSLR sort of wave of filmmakers that finally had access to cameras. And so that there's this intersection of our experience shooting stuff for web, because we wanted to tell stories in whatever mediums we could there, and the access that theater provides. It's sometimes just easier to put something up on a stage if you have those relationships. So a lot of I think it was less we're in one and trying to get in the other one, but it's more that a film isn't. It is for me, at least in this process, felt very much equal parts theater and filmmaking, in that you're just trying to nail a really good performance and get it captured. But I think we had to sort of access every sort of point of contact, all of our experience in front of the camera in whatever medium that was. And as silly as it sounds, you're supposedly unrelated, the industry will tell you your unrelated YouTube video / Vine / Instagram, whatever these little sketches that you do that prepare you to work on camera, or your time working around post-production, or your time on stage in the theater, or directing theater, or just, working in theater on the production side. All of these things give you this vantage point into how to make these things come together. So when we're doing a shot, there's a great shot in the middle of the film that Carlos did that's just me and Diggs walking into a house, it transitioning into loose score. David starts essentially playing in verse that goes into full verse and then goes back into a scene, and then we pull out of the house and there's never a cut. It's one continuous shot. That to me is employing every aspect of what we do. That is essentially a short play. It uses music that goes from ambient sound design to almost full score. We go from dialogue to heightened language to verse, back to heightened language, back to dialogue, and out. And to do that, we couldn't do that without all the experience that we have in film and all the experience we have in theater, and the way that we have figured out how to work with each other to go, this is a stupid idea, we should totally try it and see if it works.
Well, unfortunately, I think we've run out of time. When will everyone be able to see Blindspotting, other than 6 p.m. tonight at the Paramount? But if they can't make
July
it to that
27th in all the major cities, and
August 10th in all the minor cities,
and all the smaller cities.
All right,
just as important.
There is a second South by screen
Yeah.
on Thursday. I don't know when, but on Thursday.
Okay, we'll just, Google Blindspotting South by Southwest. You'll find the schedule. But everyone, please join me in thanking David Diggs, Carlos Lopez
Thank you all
Estrada,
so
Rafael
much.
Casal. Thank you so much, guys.